Hello everyone, welcome to the course Photographic Lighting. Today, we will cover the fundamental concept of exposure metering. Exposure is the process by which light enters the lens and reaches the film or image sensor to record an image. We call this exposure. So, what elements affect exposure? Previously, we learned about aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. In this lesson, we will discuss the brightness of the subject. All of these influence exposure. Next, let's examine the camera functions that allow us to control exposure. The first is metering. The camera's metering system, or a light meter, measures the brightness of the subject. This is called metering. Let's now look at the metering modes available in the digital cameras most of us use today. 1. Evaluative matrix metering. 2. Partial metering. 3. Spot metering. 4. Center weighted average metering. Of course, additional metering modes may emerge in the future. Let's analyze which subjects each current mode best suits. Evaluative metering. It evaluates approximately 35 zones of the frame to determine the correct exposure. This is the most common and fundamental metering method in everyday digital photography. Set as the default on most cameras, it prioritizes overall exposure, aiming to render most subjects in the frame with good results. It is ideal when the scene lacks strong contrast. By sampling multiple points and computing overall values, it calculates the optimal exposure for the entire image. In essence, it provides a globally balanced exposure for the entire scene, making it suitable for everyday, general-purpose photography. Examples include group photos, family portraits, and typical landscape shots. True spot metering. It measures only about 3.8% of the central area of the viewfinder frame. Use it when you want to meter the light from a specific spot. When spot metering is engaged, the metering area is confined to a key position, ensuring precise exposure measurement for the primary subject at the center. By aiming this tiny zone at an 18% mid-gray tone in the scene, you can usually obtain accurate exposure data. For example, in backlit photography, spot metering's unique approach provides essential technical support for enhancing subject texture and visual impact. Spot metering offers extremely precise exposure readings for localized areas, best suited for stage photography, individual portraits, and nude close-ups. Main advantages of spot metering: even when you are far from the subject, you can accurately meter a small area. To satisfy exposure needs particularly advantageous when you cannot approach the subject closely. Beyond stage work, spot metering is indispensable for artistic portraits, nude close-ups, and candid captures. It is the most precise mode, metering roughly 2% of the frame. Areas outside this zone have no influence, making it ideal for small subjects or high-contrast scenes. Center-weighted average metering. It emphasizes the center of the viewfinder while metering the entire frame, making exposure compensation straightforward. It gives priority to the central area, striving to make the main subject stand out, while still averaging the remainder of the frame. The exact size of the central weighted area varies by camera model. Center-weighted average metering can be viewed as a compromise that highlights the main subject yet still considers overall exposure. Compared with multi-zone evaluative metering, it focuses more on the subject while still rendering the surroundings appropriately. In practice, it is often more valuable than multi-zone evaluative metering. Note: When using this mode, be aware that because the camera may need slight repositioning, you cannot simultaneously lock both metering and composition. Best suited for personal travel shots and specific landscape images. Partial metering. It meters approximately 8% of the central area of the viewfinder. Use it in backlit conditions, when you only want to meter the LED on the main subject. Partial metering and center-weighted average metering are distinct. The latter gives priority to the center with assistance from the rest, whereas partial metering reads only a central block, yielding a smaller metering area. Thought it suits complex lighting where more accurate exposure is needed. Partial metering ensures the main subject is correctly. It is useful in harsh shooting environments, ensuring the camera's processor computes the exact exposure required for the central subject. It excels on stages, at performances, and in backlit situations. Yet, with the rise of segmented matrix metering, partial metering is becoming less common except in Canon cameras, which still retain it. Partial metering measures a specific local area. When the subject is small within the frame and contrasts strongly with the background, this mode is ideal. Unlike spot metering, its larger area reduces the risk of error for those with less metering experience. Applicable shooting situations. 1. When precise metering is required under specific conditions and a larger area than spot metering is desired. 2. Using roughly 6% of the frame for metering similar to spot metering, but slightly wider. It is effective in backlit scenes where the background is much brighter, helping emphasize the subject. Let's now summarize. The advantages of ARF metering modes are as follows. Evaluative metering suits most general scenes. It also works for backlit subjects. As for partial metering, it is used for backlit subjects against bright backgrounds. Spot metering is for metering a small, designated area on the subject. Center-weighted average metering aims to achieve an overall balanced brightness. It emphasizes the central key area. That concludes our introduction to these for metering modes. Thank you, everyone.